Hello! Hello, hi guys, over here. Arr, yar. How's it going, guys? Boom, we're doing it. The monthly adrenaline dose that is the Jorb stream. Boom. How we doing? How's the sound? How's everything? Hello, everyone. So good to see you. Yeah, it's just weird. I can actually hear you, says Dakan. That's awesome. Alright, so today Loftar will not be joining us tonight. I figured I'd spare him the inconvenience of having to sit up half the night with you guys. I need him working, right? And we're going to be working. We're going to be doing some drawing. We got our trusty Wacom board here. Wacom. Holy shit, actually a good mic, yeah. We discovered an error a couple of streams ago where I had actually two sound inputs enabled in OBS, so that was probably not the best, but now we fixed that, so now we're using only one sound input, and that apparently improves the quality for some obscure and strange reason. And the mic that I'm using is actually the webcam mic, so surprisingly, I had a boom mic or whatever it's called, boomer mic, but that one didn't work too well. We speculate that it may have always been intended to be a near field mic, but who knows. Okay, so let's see, what I'm doing is I'm drawing, so we're going to draw for a little bit at least, see how fun that is to watch and do. But what I'm working on is, Ritoshian says hello, Ritoshian. Hello Ritoshian, welcome to the stream. What I'm doing is I'm redrawing all the icons down here that you can't see. Oh man, someone... Oh, damn it, Eldral. Don't spam the chat with nonsense like that. Whatever. What a scam. We have winter and he still has fall. Okay, so you can't see the icons down here. That's a shame, but I didn't think about that. Oh well. But I can show you here what I'm doing. So we're redrawing the icons down here. Drawing icons that we can't see. That sounds like a pretty Jorby project. Well, gosh darn it. You can see them here. So this is the toggles menu, and this is the landscape menu. So we redrew this one. I redrew this one, and I can show you perhaps for reference kind of what the old one looked like. That's the old one scaled up 400%. So this is the new and improved version. The pixel size of this, the old ones is 32 by 32 pixels, and the pixel size of the new ones will be 128 by 128. But there is an inner frame here as well, so the inner dimension here is 104 by 104, I think. So make in-game notification about stream. That could perhaps be an idea, but I don't want to bother everyone. You know, this is strictly voluntary. This is extracurricular activity. You don't need to be a part of this if you don't want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to not press F12, which I would normally do, but we're just going to do that instead. And this one was called what exactly? It's called toggles.png. Okay. So we're going to make a new one, and we're going to call it toggles.pspimage. We're using the industry standard PaintShop Pro 9. Wow, that's a lot of pixels. Those must take a long time. We'll see how long they take. They take a little bit of time. Depends on how detailed you make them and how full retard you actually go with it. But they can take they take longer time in 104 by 104 than they did in 32 by 32 or whatever the inner dimension of these ones are. So we're going to start by copying this. So now we have a new one. This is actually called toggles now, even though it still has the old landscape icon. And this is the inner picture here. And we're going to start by resizing that to 400%. Whoops. And the smart size, whatever. And we get a not so nice picture, a not so nice image. And we're just going to paste, whoops. Let's do that. There we go. We're going to paste that as a new layer, and we're going to delete this layer and that layer, and we're going to move this down. Are those icons for object control objects? No, these are simply icons that I'm doing for the redraw of the UI. That's one of the projects that I have going on, is that I'm redrawing every UI element in higher resolution to support UI scaling in the game. So that's what we're going to do today. Average Benny says, will there be a patch today? I am sorry to inform you, Average Benny, that there will not be a patch today. We got some constructive criticism of our patches, and so we decided to take some time with a longer patch, because people apparently, or some people, felt that small patches didn't really do it for them. And I can sympathize with that. I kind of feel that any patch is better than no patch, but I can also sympathize with the fact that you want to see something bigger. So, good. Longer patch is good, small things bad. That's probably true. Or, I mean, that's... Dakan says, so glad I don't have a sub right now. Well, congratulations. I'm happy you're happy. So what we're going to do, now we have two layers here. We got... and a couple of them are grouped in, can't really see that for the chat, but we have a couple of layer groups here. So we have the new icon has two layers, one empty and one with a black background, and we have the old icon here, and we have the frame in a separate layer. So what we're going to do is, because we want to maintain the kind of general design of the icon, we want it to be recognizable as the same icon. So we're going to start by, you know, just sketching a small outline of, whoops, what did I do now? Jesus. So there we go. Sorry about that. There we go. And, oh no, oh damn. Crap-a-doodle. Let's see. It seems that my tablet is set to use my other screen for good reasons, but mapping, let's see, screen area, monitor 1. Did that work for me? Let's see, wait a minute, we'll get this set up right. Mapping, monitor 1, okay, so why? There we go, much better. A little bit of boomer nonsense. We're just gonna pick a color here and use that as our base color, and just fill in the icon basically. So maybe it would help if we drew in the proper layer as well. There we go. So we'll just fill this in as best as we can with an area selection active, so that we don't overdraw outside of the actual image here. Let's see how good this goes. So in the meanwhile, while we have this as kind of background activity going on, feel free to ask any questions you may have. Of course, if you're entirely new to this, then my name is Björn, and my online name is, my nom de guerre is Jorb, and I'm one half of the dynamic developer duo behind the award-winning, not really, but it should be an award-winning MMORPG called Haven and Hearth that you can find at havenandhearth.com. It's a Java game, and it is an MMORPG. It's a crafting MMO where you can craft things and interact with other players in a persistent world. Pretty cool, and you should check it out. Let's see. Cian Matt says, how long will it take for the rework icons to be put into the game? It'll take a little while, but not particularly long. I mean, I usually push these whenever I push a patch, so it's a gradual project. And whenever we're done with one, we just upload it and use it. So I don't have to have all the icons redrawn for this to be a meaningful exercise. So I don't know, maybe something like that. Okay, so we have an outline now, which means we can push that up to full opacity, and now we can basically kind of forget about the old icon, but we can have it around here. It can hang around for inspiration. Will object control objects come next week? Likely not. I would estimate the likelihood of that to be in the low nothings. So that's not going to be the thing that we're working on. We're actually working on the kind of quest system generally, and what we're doing right now is we have developed or started developing a conversation system for the quest givers. So what we're trying to do is generate meaningful lines of text from them, and the idea there is that you're going to be able to, because in the game there are quest givers taking the forms of various trees, shrubs, stumps, logs, you name it, and you can get quests from them. And the idea behind the conversation system is manifold. There are several aspects to it, and the kind of idea there is that you should be able to kind of customize the quests and give the quest giver a little bit more personality, and ultimately work it all in and tie it all in with the credo system, so that quest givers, in our thinking, should have various credos themselves, and the credos they have should kind of determine the credos that they can give or help you accomplish yourself. So that is what we're working on, and I can show you a little bit later. Dakan says, the goals sound good, but the phrase conversation system is scary. Well, I could perhaps see your timidity there, or see the reasons for it, but I don't know. I also kind of have to feel that we have to trust our intuition, and this is a system that we've talked about for a long time and that we wanted to do, so I can't really be too, I don't know, what's the word, I can't be too dependent on, I can't be too fear driven. It can't be about the patch that the people necessarily want. We have to develop the game in the direction that we want to go with it, and do the things that we kind of want to do with it, and take it where we want it to go. So we have to follow the vision, is what I'm saying. The vision, the way of the future. Way of the future. I've been watching a fair amount and reading a fair amount of mafia content these last couple of days. I watched Donnie Brasco, the movie with Johnny Depp and Al Pacino. I'm not going to say that it was a good movie, but it was an okay movie. And an okay movie based on a fascinating story of the FBI agent Joey Pistone, who infiltrated some family of the New York Mafia in the late 70s, early 80s. It's a fascinating story, a riveting tale, gentlemen. Harbinger Bjorn says, do you think that expanding a system that is only used by such tiny percent of the player base is a bit of a weird strategy? Perhaps, but I don't know, what would you suggest? What do you want to see? I'm always taking suggestions. If you'd rather want us to work on something else, then push for that, by all means. But that being said, I think also, I don't know, is that true? Is the quest system used by only a few people? Not sure if that is actually where we are. Not sure if that is actually true. And maybe, I mean, one of the reasons that it's not used by more people is that it's not particularly, or it's not everything that it could be, perhaps. That could be argued as well. John Fugati asks, is this new conversation system just going to be more RNG? Well, there's certainly going to be random elements in it. If it's, I don't know if I'd call it just RNG, but I mean, one of the kind of hopes is that we can give the quest givers a bit of a more persistent identity and a bit of a more persistent attitude toward things, and a bit of a more nobody I know likes questing. Well, that's probably that. What would you like to see? Snuggle Snail. Shout out to Snail, snailiest player in the game. That being said, I mean, this is not the only venue of development that we have. It is, however, a fairly major task that we felt we wanted to do, so we're doing it. Are you guys going to make questing mandatory? No, not really. I mean, I don't think there's any desire really to make it more mandatory than it already is. So I wouldn't. That's not really, at least not how we have framed the topic in our discussions. So no. How many people will you be hiring for localization of these conversations? The one none. We don't do localization DACM. So I think the best translator the world has to offer, namely Google Translate, is your friend there. Harbinger Bjorn says, I am confused. If you just randomly start working on things you want to work on, why do you suggest that we attempt to push for you to work on more productive things? It's not, I wouldn't say that we randomly started working on this. This is a thing that we wanted to do for a long time, and it's a fairly large task, and I think it has several good prospective outcomes that you could perhaps appreciate even if questing isn't your thing, namely one of the ultimate goals being a better credo system. So there's that, and also us working on a larger project is not necessarily, to the exclusion of all and every other avenue of development. You'll be happy to know, I think, that we had a pretty long conversation the other day about things that are perhaps closer to your hearts than questing systems, or to many people's hearts, and that we had a long discussion about the quality caps on farming and how those should work. And I think at the very least we have a consensus that the present system isn't very good. So we feel your pain on that. Let's see, questions. Did somebody suggest that you expand quests? Because I bet nobody did. No, exactly, and that was my point entirely. No one did. That's entirely our own vision and idea, much like the game in general. So I don't know. I think it's going to be good eventually, and I think it's something that needs to be done, because I don't really I think the quest givers could be a lot more fun than they are, and I think the credo system could be a lot more fun than it is, and I think those are worthy goals. But I mean, that being said, I'm certainly here to listen to the Vox Populi to some extent, so if you have other ideas on what we should be working on, feel free to share. We're going to finish this to some extent, but it's not the only thing we can or have to do. There are other things we can do as well. Harbinger Bjorn says, please consider that the only people who are negatively affected by quality caps are the small percent of people who play for longer than 3 months straight, and that lifting them would be detrimental to anybody who joins later by widening the gap between new player and longer term player. Well, that's a good argument, and I think that's one of the challenges when building a game like this, is that we have, because the game runs a course of at least a year, in between which we do like regular recurring world resets. I'm sure you all know this, but for context, if anyone else is watching. And we have to maintain like a continuity of the game experience over a fairly long period of time. And that requires us to consider things like what was just brought up, like the balance between the player starting now and the player starting a long time ago. And certainly one of the areas that the game could do a better job of. And you added forageable wild wind zone weeds to prevent that issue. Yes, I'm aware. There is a mechanic by which you can kind of jumpstart your farming qualities. But anywho, what we concluded in the last discussion was, I think, if I'm giving fair assessment of Loftar's opinion as well, was that local quality caps are not, all that great. But we also kind of feel that there has to be some sort of a cap on farming produce, because farming produce is kind of special and that it is the only thing that is not determined by local quality fields that we generated at world start, so to speak. Because if there are not local quality caps or something, then there's technically no limit intrinsically to how far crop qualities can go. And this is an area where I think we could have a productive discussion. Like, how do you think that should work? Because we had several ideas floated. We had a fairly long discussion about it. What is this icon supposed to be? It's supposed to be some wavy water meeting fire. Snuggle Snail says, does it matter if there's no limit? If there's a limit, then the people who care about raising industry eventually have nothing to do ever again. No, I'm not saying that there needs to be a fixed one-time limit. Crop circles were a mechanic that we added kind of in the hopes or with the ambition that it should be possible to raise your quality cap. And we can discuss how that should work. We could envision several systems or ways of handling that. We could envision a quality cap which is global in scope. We could envision a quality cap that is local in scope. We could envision a quality cap where okay, you have to perform rituals every spring to raise the global quality cap, and that's a collective effort that the entire game server population has to contribute to. We've discussed several approaches in that vein. But the thing is that I feel that there should be a quality cap somewhere which you have to put in more work to actually raise. Because I agree with you, you have a point. People who start farming, they want to push their numbers, and if they at some arbitrary point, and we're not huge on caps. That's not our entry value in this discussion either. We don't like caps. They're kind of arbitrary and dumb in many ways. But effectively, there are caps to every other industry, like metal, animal bones, etc., etc. Or not livestock, but stuff you catch from the wild. Forage. Most other things are effectively capped in quality by the local quality fields in the game. And I certainly feel that it would behoove farming to have some sort of similar mechanic by which it just doesn't spiral away into infinity, because I think you get pretty bonkers numbers with the qualities at some point. I kind of, for aesthetic reasons, I kind of don't like quality numbers above, say, 1,000. So I think there should be something there that limits the farming, or at least in a temporal way, where like you're limited for some duration of time. This also one could envision, could help people catch up, because the top dogs in the farming game would be held back by the upper quality cap, whereas people below that could potentially increase at a more rapid pace. So I think, see, that cap is time, and the effort is the number of times you've harvested and replanted. Yeah, but yeah, that cap is not particularly great. I also don't like, for what it's worth, I kind of don't like that you have to autistically replant your crops the second they finish, because that sounds like bot work to me. So I kind of, and we had a mechanic in place, is it still in place? Can't remember, to kind of prevent that, but that mechanic has other problems. So the point being is that I kind of want the system to do several things at once, some of them which may be like slightly intrinsically opposed game design goals. Like, I want it to hold players back, and I would like there to be at least some sort of limit to how far you can go with the farming, or at least how fast you can go super far with it. But yeah, I think the key takeaway there is that we want to, because the complaint that we get with local quality caps is that, okay, so I just settled my base, and now several months in I discover that the quality cap is pretty low or whatever, and I agree that that's not fun. So we're gonna have to, and it leads to kind of perverse incentives where you have to plant like all over the map in order to find where the good quality spots are, which is, you know, strikes me as less than optimal. You need box art for Twitch TV. Yeah, that's probably true. I should get that. Bro, I've been trying to get out a tutorial in this game. Have you thought about the animal quality nodes at all? I think a lot of people like to see it closer to legacy. Trishana says, wait, are you the producer of this game? I can't say that this game really has a producer per se. We are two people developing it, so I'm one half of the developer duo. So gotta go. Glad you're redrawing all these icons, says Cozy. Couldn't sleep at night otherwise. I'm glad I'm the one giving you your nappy time. I'm glad I'm standing guard over Colsey's good night's sleep. So sleep well, Colsey, and I will talk to you later. Like RuneScape, bro. It's gonna be famous. I know a girl who's addicted. To Haven or to RuneScape? Drift animal quality nodes each season, yeah. Yeah, what do I think about animal quality nodes? I kind of like, in theory at least, that you can find a good hunting spot. Like, you can, because it's, one thing that I kind of like is that you can explore the map and find points of interest in the map, and you can learn things about the map and, you know, put work into the world, so to speak, by exploring it and finding things in it. But I can also see that the global or the animal quality fields are lead to some bad incentives. Like, if you find the good moose spot, then you're never going to hunt moose anywhere else, and you can, you know, potentially do various nefarious things like logging in alts in the good spawn spots to check for mooses, and moose, plural of moose is moose, right? One moose, several moose. Lunar Archon says, stuck with 250 anglers and moose because I'm too wimpy to whale. I know that feel. Seasonal quality nodes for animals? Yes. I don't know. Like, do you mean like they're the same each spring? Like, or what do you mean precisely? I mean, I could see like, you know, some drift to them could perhaps be interesting. Drifting them a little bit as the seasons shift. There are many ways you could go with it. I don't know. What do you guys feel? How would you like it to change? Athanar says, I feel like the difference in quality between a good animal node and a bad one is way too high. Q60 bears are terrible and Q300 bears are busted. Range should be more like 100 to 200 or something. 30-second advertisement says, can't wait to stop botting the same spot and bot a new spot every couple of weeks. Those are our thoughts. Okay, so we had one idea. The idea there was animal quality nodes should be more consistent in quality. Is there consensus on that? Do we have agreement, chat? Harbinger Bjorn says animal nodes should just fully re-roll every season. Animals would never keep going to the same overhunted spot in real life. Like if you want to go down that road, like one of the things that we talked about when we started working on Haven, and I mean this is kind of a bit far out there, but we talked about this Daisy World, which is a pretty interesting thing. You can read it for yourself. Wikipedia, Daisy World. A computer simulation is a hypothetical world orbiting a star whose radiant energy is slowly increasing or decreasing. It is meant to mimic important elements of the Earth-Sun system and was introduced by James Lovelock and Andrew Watson in a paper published in 1983. So this is basically a computer game. But what it does is, like, the point being that you have like black and white flowers in the simulation, and depending on like the values you give the star and whatever, the black population or the white population can increase to kind of, you know, seek toward the maximum kind of biomass or life effect there. So the point was that it's basically a life simulation game, and that was one of the things that we discussed pretty early on, or you know, had in the back of our minds. And we, you know, so the point being, then you could imagine a system where you hunt very much in one place, and that effectively like decreases the local moose population to reflect the moose you've killed. That's not necessarily like a bad idea, like I think. Dreadlord Dawson says, saying again, haven't played since the fall of Aurora a world or two ago. What is your favorite thing you've added since then? I don't recall when the fall of Aurora was. Cattle roster is a pretty nice change. We lifted that from some custom client. UI scaling is a pretty nice thing. Like again, I don't recall the exact timeline of our implementations. We like the most recent retouch of how the food system works, I think, was a pretty good change. But I mean, the real truth is that several of the like key features that I would like to change haven't changed in a long while. So, and those are the kind of bigger projects like object control objects, blah blah blah, and those have been taking a fair amount of time. Much like the client rendering rewrite took a fair amount of time. Drunken Jacob says best change is Swamp Fever. I'll second that. Is there any way for credos or specialization, says Journey 75, to somehow cap or limit other stats? Would flesh out the idea of different villager specializations. Yeah, maybe, but I also don't want it to be that you have to run like an alt to have every possible combination of credos and stats. So basically, you know, I'd like Hermit Life to be somewhat viable, and I think adding too much nonsense that requires credos to like raise your stats and specialize heavy, etc. I think I mean, I like the idea on paper, but I think it has negative gameplay implications that you should consider. Circulus 12 says, will NVIDIA crash be fixed for next World's PvP? I hope so. I think Loftar has had problems tracking that crash down, and I think he had some people helping him with that, delivering solid reports on what was actually causing the crash and what the reasons for it were. But I don't really know the status of that crash. How frequent was it? How bad was it? Because we could perhaps prioritize if it's difficult. But I think it was it Windows only, or I don't really know what the circumstances of the crash were. Really bad, says Circus. Snugglesnance says every OS. Okay. Multiple crashes every 5. Damn, that's very unfortunate. Was it a new crash, like you just had it this world and never before, or was it just many players on screen, or what were the circumstances kind of? Jealous. Jesus loves you still. Yes, he does. Says, any plans to fix the whale meat dupe? Is there a whale meat dupe? Damn, son, that's news to me. I'm gonna sound like a complete noob, which is probably somewhat close to the truth, but if there's a whale meat dupe, you'll have to send me like steps to reproduce, or so I know of no whale meat dupe, sir. Tigo PL says, will you guys change red-handed mechanic? Waiting 1 hour is very annoying and you can't leave your PC. Waiting 1 hour to Hearth Home or to teleport. I mean, I've seen people knock themselves out in order to teleport home, and that doesn't sound right. So on that argument, I guess we could change it. But I also seem to recall us, no, we didn't change the time. We changed that you could use thing walls while red-handed or some such, and that was apparently controversial, so I don't really know. I mean, the purpose of the red hand debuff is to kind of prevent opportunistic raiding of little people. So if you can assure me that no opportunistic raiding of little people would be going on, then I would be inclined to push for that change. So are we happy? Are we there yet? No, not really. I'll work a little bit more on this one. How does red-handed prevent that? Because you can't just find a settlement, or that was the thinking at least. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't just find a settlement of a player when you're just out diddling. You can't just find a settlement, raid it, and teleport back home. So there's at least a cost associated with that kind of raid. Little people need to be raided. Right. Athenor says, I don't think I've ever saw something I've wanted when out dicking around and not taking it because of red-handed. No, but maybe you saw things that you didn't necessarily want, and the red-handed buff caused you to go, okay, oh bother. When you go out to fuck up nabs, F up nabs, you're not effing up one nab and going home. You raid everybody along the river until you get bored, then you KO yourself. Right? Okay, well at least you have to KO yourself. Like at least there's that cost associated with it, no? But I mean, that being said, I can certainly see that it prevents like PvP from happening. So, and maybe that's a good reason to change it. Circulus says, I feel like that's a fair argument, but 1 hour sitting there or KOing is very steep. Yes. I mean, I certainly see your point. Like, I can certainly see that sitting around waiting for 1 hour when you've raided someone isn't engaging content precisely. So what would your proposed solution be? Just remove it entirely? Is that so? Basically, there's no teleport implications at all from doing crime and such. Because one other thing that I think it kind of maybe accomplishes is that you can't just commit a crime and then zap out of there. Like, say you knock someone down, like say you're out opportunistically, you knock someone out, steal their things, and then you just zap home to the protection of your walls. Isn't it a good thing that you have to kind of find your way out of there in case, and maybe avoid the cavalry? I mean, I know the argument now is that there's never going to be any cavalry, but I don't know how good of an argument that is. Bring back the old chat's moving kind of fast here. Bruder Snowball says you can just walk in a direction or get on a Knar and people will never catch you unless they come on horses from thing walls, and people coming on horses from thing walls is not good for the game anyway, in my opinion. I mean, I agree with you that the implications for PvP of the red-handed debuff are negative. So we're in agreement thus far. But I don't know, dude. There's still something deep inside of me that says that if you commit a crime, you have to do the time. Isn't there something sound about the fact that you can't just teleport out of there in like 2 minutes after knocking someone out, or 0 minutes after knocking someone out? I don't know. Maybe I'm just restating my own position. Declan says, "Damn, that icon's gonna have a horrible red rash soon if you don't stop stroking it so much." Yeah, you're gonna have the red rash if you don't wise it up, son. Triciano says, "Bye." Okay, bye. Get Jumped says, "I think allowing thing walls would be a reasonable compromise." Okay, so you can teleport from thing walls then, while red-handed, presumably. I mean, I like that better. How do the rest of y'all feel about that? Make the buff quickly go away after you leave the offended claim. Maybe, but there's not necessarily going to be a claim. Like if you just knocked someone out or whatever, it may not be a crime against a claim. In Legacy, the implication of raiding somebody was that it was actually super easy to get raided back. Just bring back the ease of which one could enter a base with a ram from Legacy, and then none of these complicated chest siege and red-handed dynamics needs to be in place. Right. Okay, I'm gonna straight up admit that I don't really recall the latest iteration of Legacy's siege system. So you're going to have to freshen me up on that. How did that work more exactly? You could just place a ram and then... Did it even have a cooldown? I don't remember how that worked. Legacy didn't have siege. Yeah, exactly. You couldn't easily raid competent people in Legacy, right? We're gonna zoom out and check this icon in as it would kind of appear in game sort of, and it's gonna look something like that. So let's have a look at it again. So it would appear like that. So we're doing a lot of extra resolution that we're not really using. Boom. But if you do scale your UI up, you will at least have a somewhat nicer icon there. So we're gonna I might do some more touch-ups on that later, but we're gonna be satisfied with that one, and probably just move on to the next one, because I think this is an excellent use of my time at least. So the ones we're doing, let's see if I can actually show you here. See if that worked out well. Now you can see the icons. So I've done all the icons in the root menu have been redrawn. Boom, 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 boom. So now I'm working through the adventure menu, and we've done that one and the landscaping one, and now we're doing that one. In Legacy there was no claim shield, so as a noob you could just place a ramp. Gosh darn it. You could place a ram and wait a few hours, or pay a stronger person to do it with a gang squad. Yeah. Water terraforming 1. Well, it's a pretty tall order, water terraforming, but let's not change the subject entirely. Right and Magic looks clean. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Let's see. Just scrolling the chat a little bit here. Exactly. Daffalls94 says Legacy was just placing a ram and hoping no one notices it. That was all of the siege. Yeah, that's my recollection as well. And I mean, that has other problems, because I don't think being dependent on like notifications is exactly the most intelligent gameplay either, because quote-unquote competent players are just going to set up a bot to make the rounds and notify them of any siege weapons, and that's going to be the end of that. I mean, back in some of the earlier worlds of Legacy, when we had like brick bashers and such, it was very much easy to get raided. And I mean, I've contemplated at times, like, okay, what happens if we just bring back brick wall bashing, and like what happens if we... But I mean, there's the other side of the game as well, is that we want people to be able to invest a long time in their base, and I think if we expect that to happen, then I think people need to be somewhat secure in their base. Infinity Merlin says, make sieges less retarded, please. Nowadays it's too boring to raid someone and take a long time. Shouldn't it take a long time? Like, should it really be that you just raise people's bases in a couple of hours? I mean, the fundamental problem that the present siege system is trying to address is the offline problem, where people are going to be offline for long hours of the day, and Harbinger, and you know, maybe it's not, you know, super amount of fun to like log in and have your base discover your base raided in the dead of the night by Nacht und Nebel either. I wouldn't want that. Harbinger Bjorn says, right now the implication of current siege is that big groups are invincible and noobs are highly vulnerable. So if we went back to Legacy style, everybody would be vulnerable. Yeah, I mean, that part is probably true. Like, you could, I mean, or true-ish at least, like if we had the Legacy siege, but it could quickly turn into an apocalyptic wasteland also. Like that would, I mean, some of the older Legacy systems were a lot more Mad Max than present Haven. Is that would be the direction that you would suggest for the game? Going, you know, basically allowing more freeform raiding and I mean, so how do you view, if that's your, you know, position, how do you view the kind of long-term investment, you know, point that I brought up? Like, because, you know, shouldn't people be able to build on their base and feel, because that's one of the things that I kind of like, is that when I have a claim up, you know, there's going to be a lot of effort involved in taking me out, Granted, that causes other problems. This is a very, like, I mean, developing this game and balancing all the mechanics exactly right is definitely a challenge. I envy the people building single-player games, because you get away with a lot of things in single-player games that you never get away with in a multiplayer game like this. Mad Max equals good. Nerf brick walls and buff brick walls. I close my eyes to it. Zunzon says 2-3 month effort in developing a base should not be lost in one fast rate. Kind of what I feel as well. Like, I think if you're arguing for like more, I don't know, arbitrary sieging, then I think you kind of have to give me something to address that argument, because I'm not sure that's you never have a brick wall. No. Daffles94 says the only way I see justice in the Hearthlands is that the strong try-hard characters are not invincible in combat compared to the average Hearthling. No, I agree, and I think we took a good step in that direction, at least when we changed the combat formula so that anyone within like 2x of you is effectively considered being on the same level in terms of stats. I think that was a good development. But there are other stats that are not, you know, handled similarly, and which are more difficult to handle in that way. For example, damage, which is calculated by strength, and agility has similar-ish problems. So, say this to Hiroshima. Say this to Hiroshima. Ouch! Too soon. Too soon, my friend. That was a fun one. I'll save that to Hiroshima. Yeah, maybe I will. Okay, we're gonna call the toggles one done, and we're gonna go. Whoops. We're gonna go to the next one, which is adventure toggles. The build fire icon. All right, build fire icon, huh? Let's see if we can find the build fire icon. What could that be called? Let me see if I can find it. I think I found it. I found it. Pow.png. Let's see. Make PvP flag with a cooldown 1 week, so farmers do farm, fighters do fighting. Bring back palisade bashing. Yeah, I mean, I don't like, again, the I don't necessarily hate all the implications of palisade bashing or even brick wall bashing. I mean, nid banes are not the best implementation, but I mean, the reason we implemented nid banes at least was thinking, you know, in the vein of the legacy, kind of some of the older versions of legacy had effectively a more of a balance of terror, perhaps, in that, like, if you killed someone, it was fairly easy to get back at you because you could just brick wall bash or you know, bash the walls. So let's see. We need a fatter fire. We need a fatter fire. We shall have a fatter fire, sir. I shall provide you with a fire so fat. So we're gonna, first off, we're just gonna make a copy of this and not press F12, which would otherwise be my inclination, because pressing F12 ends the stream, so we're not going to do that. We're going to call that pow.php image, and we're going to start redrawing this. LinkFamPC says, any plans to increase render distance sometime soonish? I think it could lead to better hunting mechanics, which is a big problem at the moment. I don't really know what implications you see for hunting from increasing the rendering distance, but increasing the rendering distance is one of the longer term goals that we have, and it's pretty far up on my list, but it's also a fairly tall order because the server needs to transfer a lot of map data to the client, and that map data would have to be compressed somehow, or provided in lower resolution forms in order to be able to render farther out, with obviously then some area restrictions as to what you could actually see in the distance and such, and that is a pretty big deal. So I wouldn't, I can't promise that anytime in any sort of, I can't give any sort of time frame for that, but it's definitely one of the things that we would like to change. Will you ever add rolling stat caps? Not permanent, but stat limits that grow over time. Again, we're not like huge fans of stat caps. I don't know, I'm not going to exclude it, but I think we would have to find a good and natural system for it that felt good and natural. Also, like, what are we aiming to accomplish? Perhaps is it that we want to kind of keep the top bracket of players held back a little bit to give others a chance to play catch up, or what are we attempting to accomplish with rolling stat caps? Would be perhaps my question to you, sir. So shoot the question right back to you. Circulus 12 says the reason you're losing in PvP is not because of stats, unless you've absolute garbage stats. Can you be bribed, says Semya, to do cupboard signs with cake? Okay, so I like cupboard signs, I like the idea of cupboard signs, but it quickly devolves into a question of like, okay, is this now a system for generically placing signs on objects? Maybe it should be. Hey, maybe we could actually like, we do something very similar with the purchase object system we added. That works in a very similar way. That's actually not a bad idea. We could perhaps do that, like just allow people to set signs to arbitrary objects using the same mechanic, kind of. So what do we call that point? That was a good idea there. Object signs like with the purchase stub system. Because what I don't want to do is like implement a very, very specific implementation for cupboards specifically, just because that is what you happen to ask for. Because like the immediate next request then is please implement cupboard signs for chests. So if we do implement signs for objects, then it should be something more general, I feel. Zunzon says making display signs passable will be a very cheap solution for cupboard signs. Yeah, we're not. I wish you the best of luck in convincing Loftar to make anything passable. He has a profound and deep dislike of hitbox integrity, exactly. So if you want to give that a go, I've attempted it at times with very limited success, but if you want to give it a go, then by all means. Wait a minute, we haven't scaled this up. Friends, we were almost redrawing the icon in the same aspect ratio that we had before. No purpose is served by this. Why is asks Sundry, Firehearth called POW in the res files? Important question. It is called POW because it is a pile of wood. So there we go. Orcus Forcus says, I liked and have been inspired by the recent update to the cattle roster and collected some ideas, but of course they are not as important as things like caps and crashes and our weightings, so if you will ever have time, you can see these for consideration. Snuggle Snail asks, why is a sled spark? A sled is a spark because in Swedish we call it a spark. Det är en spark. Spark på svenska är precis det fordonet. Så man säger spark. Så nu har du lärt dig ett svenskt ord. Så jag föreslår att du tar tillfället i akt och använder det. Nyttjar det här goda, nya, fina ordet jag har givit dig. Och gör det mesta av det helt enkelt. So there we go. with the Swedish curses. Hexes. I assumed laughter was just retarded. That's fair, I guess. It's not H&H. Yeah, it's a fair assumption. I make that assumption myself all the time. Shots fired. But no, it's actually called spark på svenska. Auf Swedish. So that's the reason. Drunken Jacob says, "Wow, Loftar will quit." I don't think so. We have a pretty hefty banter. Me and Loftar. We have a pretty hefty banter. Kirche T says, "This is why Loftar won't come onto stream anymore." No, he'll come on. He'll come on if I ask him to come on. I think he enjoys doing these. It's just when I started doing these, it was like one of the reasons I wanted to start doing them was because I wanted something to do that didn't, require his attention. I wanted to kind of try to help the game, without consuming more of his time, kind of. So we wanted a somewhat fatter fire. We shall fatten the fire out. Loftar was bound to Jorb soul eons ago. He can never quit. Yes, we are actually mind melded. We are one entity. Jorbtar. Slayer of worlds. So Loftar, for those of you not in the know, those of you who are not wise guys, Loftar is the other half of the developer duo. Jesus obviously still has it. Have you considered re-randomizing the food recipe stats on a world reset to mix it up for us? I don't know. Probably rightly, we've gotten a bit of flack for some of the recent random implementations not being, all that great or fun or engaging, and I could see there being an argument for that. So I'm somewhat reluctant to go lean too heavy on RNG's. Mutable God says, "Is there a patch today?" No, there will not be a patch today. There will, however, most likely be a patch next week. Yeah, I mean, can you blame me, LinkFam PC? No patch re. Well, a couple of weeks ago it was patch re. So make up your mind, sir. Make up your mind. John Fugati says, "Can you talk more about your vision for questing conversations?" So the text in the conversations is not what I really rely on. Basically, what I kind of envision is that the quest givers have a conversation tree that you can traverse, presumably paying various costs, traversing their little conversation tree that they've generated, and the text mostly serving as a kind of a tapestry, a presentation, like a fun bit of lore trivia or whatever that they present in each room of the conversation tree. And you could pay costs in terms of like your relation with this quest giver, etc., or whatnot. And depending on how you traverse the tree, you could develop your relationship with the quest giver in various ways, or you could kind of tailor the quest that he ends up offering you as a result of this conversation to be a quest that you would like to do. So that's basically the vision in short. And we could imagine, like, you know, your charisma could play a role in how in what results you get when you try various things in the quest tree or in the conversation tree, stuff like that. And also, I kind of it's been a long-standing idea of ours that quest givers should level up themselves, so that quest givers would actually get better the longer you've interacted with them. So that you can level them up. They start out pretty low level. You can, you know, by doing quests for them, performing various tasks, you could, you know, increase their power. And it would be good if there were an incentive there for players who control quest givers to, you know, allow other people access to the quest giver in order to develop it further. And I envision the quest givers having a key role in the kind of credo system, not necessarily to the complete exclusion of non-quest giver related things, but basically right now we have a forked quest system because the quest lists for credo quests are pretty different from the quest lists that the normal random quests that the quest givers give you, and I would like that to be more of a unified system. And I would like it so that the quest giver can kind of recognize you and you can have a relationship with him, because that's also one of the things that I don't like right now, is that the quest givers are pretty much interchangeable. So you never develop a relationship with a quest giver. He never, you know, really matters to you. You can never, like, and it's also due to the randomness of the system, you can effectively lose contact with the quest giver if he chooses to not give you a new quest. So like one of your old buddy quest givers could suddenly kind of drop you, and I mean you could get back in game with him through in-game actions like communing with nature and whatnot, but I'd kind of like it if you could initiate a conversation with him, and yeah, trying to you know, invest in him, invest in the relationship. Also give the quest givers more of a personality so that they're more ideally memorable, less interchangeable, and yeah, so that's kind of the what we're going for there. Jesus Loves You Still says, any plan to update some of the lower quality models in the game and the model textures to be high quality? Yeah, sure. I mean, always. Anything in particular you're thinking of? Like I got a request a while back to redraw the texture on an old store hat, and I mean I wouldn't necessarily mind doing it, but we have our work cut out for us as it is, so I'm also somewhat reluctant, at least, to add too much, like, because reworking an old resource, while I mean it's good, we should do it, it's great, there are definitely old, very low quality resources that should get reworked, the character perhaps being the key one there. Lynx, that's a good example. Lynx is, yeah, maybe not my finest work. Can you redraw the Maha hat? There's letters floating off the hat. Are there? Really? Really? Time spent reworking is time spent not making new things. Exactly. So I'm sure there's a balance there to be struck between retouching old stuff and doing new stuff. I don't think it's necessarily that we should do only new stuff. Like, also it's a continuous effort. I think recently, when we added variable materials to brick objects, I think all of those got a major touch-up. I'm very much more pleased with how they look now compared to what they used to look like. I mean, I can't show you the old one for reference, but oops. But the new ones are nicer, at least. I mean, even has a little bit of a bump map going on, and I thought these turned out at least reasonably well. So we touched those up. I touched those up, and that was fun. I enjoyed that. Variable materials is fun. When's variable palisades and brick walls? I mean, that's one of the other major projects that we're working on, or rather that Loftar is working on, and I will begin working on once he's finished the system for it, is adding instanced rendering to variable materials, which would allow us to have variable materials on more common objects. Right now we kind of have reserved it for objects that are not going to be like 500x of them on screen at the same time. So we've kind of like crates, chests, stuff that you have a lot of. We kind of, because every new material type is essentially going to be its own rendering call and whatnot. But when we get instanced rendering of those, that's not going to be as much of an issue. So with that, if we do that, then we can have the vomit green palisades, exactly. Wait, that's I don't know. Palisades and brick walls are controversial in terms of the variable materials on them. I've kind of gone back and forth on it myself, but yeah, I think the last discussion we had on it came out in favor of the on variable materials on them. So there was that. Each segment of the wall is the majority wood color. Yeah, we discussed in between. Troll XH&H says, what kind of monster would want variable material palisades? Save us. Okay. So you see, it's a controversial topic. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would love their variable material palisades. This monster, says that guy. Not sure if serious, not sure if serial, but there we are. Oops, I began drawing in the outline layer, y'all. It was a catastrophe, a potential catastrophe that we averted only through my superior skill. That's the thing, people don't recognize my skills. People don't give a man his proper and due credit. I've been playing Super Smash here at home with little people close to me, and it has been a lot of fun. One particular person is very fond of playing the Pokemon Trainer. Pokemon Trainer. Who's your favorite fighter, says Link Fan PC? I don't really have a favorite per se. I haven't played the game enough to really know which ones are good. I just suck at it, frankly. So usually I just play random. So random is probably my favorite. Have little people close to you tried Haven? No, little people close to me are a bit too small for Haven yet. But little people close to me have been getting some lessons in programming, which is fun and interesting. It's kind of strange trying to explain, concepts that seem so kind of self-evident to you, to someone who is entirely new to them. So it's fun. Azure Rose Online says, did you try Valheim yet? No, I have not. Average Benny says, please add fire particle effects. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea. We should do that. That's a good idea for a little fix. Fire particle effect. If we can do it in a non lol, are the poor little people learning Java? Bless them. No, it's C for life, from C to shining sea. So we're not. No. We're not doing the retardery. I can't even program in Java. So I don't know the first thing about it. That's not true. course I can. Programming is programming, but haven't used it. Zafaroth says, what would you say number one desired outcome of object control objects when it's finished? I mean, to me, the long-term goal of object controlled objects is freeform building. That being said, freeform building is one step removed from object controlled objects, because object controlled objects, all that really means is that one object can have its own little game world that a player can transfer to. The kind of obvious and immediate implementations that object control objects would lead to are things like walking on docks, or walking on the wagon station, or things of that nature, like being able to actually walk up the stairs and such, which I think would be in itself incredibly cool. Or for example, getting on a raft, and then the raft, you can actually walk about on the raft, or getting on a ship and you can actually walk about on the Knar. Those would be the kind of obvious, like, go-to early implementations that would come from object control objects. The next step is to implement free-form building, which is like one of the like early things that we wanted for Haven. One of the early things that were in the original vision for Haven were a free-form building system. We had long discussions about The Sims, which was one of the games that we looked at that point, and we discussed, how a building system could work. Like, could we calculate a roof for the buildings, etc. I don't know. Have you guys tried Townscaper? It's a Swedish indie game published by Raw Fury, recently released. I hear good things about it. I hear it's doing well. It's not so much a game as it is a like city drawing program. Looks pretty cool. I thought about that when I thought about freeform building last time. You should check out RimWorld. They do building a pretty cool way. Yeah, I mean, I've been meaning to play RimWorld. It's just that Arslånga Vita Brevis, there are significant constraints on my time. I actually made the mistake the other week of sitting down one night and not working. Came back to bite me, of course, but I played some Surviving Mars. I don't know if you played Surviving Mars. It's a game I came close to working on, but never actually did work on. But I played it, and it was a fair amount of fun. You terraform Mars. And this was inspired by playing the board game Terraforming Mars, which I did in a sesh with some friends recently. So I don't know if you played that, but it was kind of fun. There's some interesting mechanics there, and I like simulation games and such. Any kingdom changes? Now there are 3 big kingdoms in the world, including ours. One player actively doing quests replaces all the inhabitants of the kingdom. But if kingdom don't have such a person, all the inhabitants of the kingdom cannot cope with his work on the influx of authority. Also, the players living in the kingdom are now not involved in its development in any way. Will there be a revision of the kingdom, and when, if? So the problem I have with authority is that it kind of leans pretty heavily on the exp mechanic, which the reason for that is that the exp mechanic is kind of harder-ish to like bot super effectively. In before Snail counters me and says it's super easy to bot effectively, and like, okay, I get it, but still. But what I would so I don't like that, but the question is perhaps, because it would be ideal if the players living under the kingdom actually contributed to the kingdom. The question perhaps being then, like, how do we measure their meaningful contribution to the kingdom in a way which doesn't like lend itself to heavy botting, because it kind of sucks if you have to run dumb bots to get authority for the kingdom. Maybe that's what's already. Maybe that is already the case, and that's unfortunate. Or over 75% of the player base doesn't have realm buffs. Because the realms are not well extended, or villages could build some sort of sacrifice mechanic to the realm or something, selling guano. Yeah. So I mean, I would need some impulse as to how we should change it. That, I guess. Okay, we drew in the wrong layer with that one. Gosh darn it. Happens. Remove. Let players opt out of the kingdom. I don't want to be a CUCK to a shitty realm. Right. What would that entail? Like, would you... I don't know. Like, expressing the physical dominance of a faction over a particular area, I think seems relatively uncontroversial to me. We could perhaps discuss the realm buffs and how those should work, if at all. But I think the idea, especially since we changed it to control of thing walls, is not an idea that I'm looking to go back from. So CUCK isn't a curse word, crikey. Isn't it though? Not a nice word. This is a family-friendly stream, sir, I'll have you know. So as you can see, this does a ton of difference for, let's make a new layer. New icon. What is this fantastic piece of art you are crafting? Says Thovix. Thank you, Thovix. This is the fire icon. It's gonna be fire. It's gonna be fire. I think it's an improvement at least, right? This is probably, we're not done with it. By the way, we're not done with it. I just want a higher light source cap, please, says Austin224. Yeah, I mean, we actually, like, that should be a setting straight up, I think. Light source. Because it's pretty much only dependent on, like, how good of a computer you have. So it should be, Average Benny says, let us assign ranks to, or some categories to people who live in Realm, like peasant, merch, fighter, viscount, baron, etc. I mean, is there anything preventing you from just LARPing that? Like, are you asking for just a LARP or for an in-game mechanic? Because if it's just a LARP, you can just LARP away. If it's an in-game mechanic, then what's the mechanic behind those titles? Like, why do they matter? I mean, also, like, we call it realms because we don't want to assume your preferred type of government. That's worse than assuming gender, actually. I know that the libs are not hip to this, but it's the next social justice issue, hot button social justice issue, is assuming people's preferred types of government, and it would be alien to me to assume that you desire to live under a monarchical system with all the oppression that naturally entails. So we're open to republics. We're open to this being you having a republican realm, or even a theocratic realm, or some other preferred form of government. Government is a spectrum, and we support people on all points of that spectrum. Far from it would it be to me to imply that there are distinct points on this spectrum. It's all up in the air pretty much. would be alien to my thought to somehow imply that reality has a definable or discernible structure. Yeah. Jokes aside, I don't necessarily feel that players have to be in a monarchy or whatever. You can have whatever form of government you want, and so I'm not going to push like the title of Viscount or Baron on you. Is it Viscount? It's Viscount, right? You don't say Viscount, you say Viscount. I'm a fool. My English is not good. It is not what it should be. Maybe let the realms and rename the roles. Well, I mean, what function do the roles have in game? Like in game mechanical terms, what difference do they make? How are they presented to players, etc., etc.? I think these are the real hot button issues that we need to discuss. But yeah, you heard it here first on the Jorb stream. Preferred form of government, the government fluid spectra. This is. I would like a martial law government that forces all my citizens to get herpsinated, to get stabbed, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that's a bad word now, if I can't say that word that he wrote there. You can read it in the chat. I don't know if I can even... I hear it's a sensitive issue, like so much else in this day and age. See, now we drew in the wrong layer. We drew some of the wood detail nonsense in the wrong layer, and now we're going to suffer the consequences of this mistake forever, because I can't be arsed to correct it. Okay, so when in game, you're going to see it kind of like that would be the normal way, and then the contrast would be from that to that. Zoomed in like this, it's not much of a difference, but if you get closer, there's at least some difference. So let's see if we can touch this up a little bit more. Being able to tell how much authority each province is contributing to the realm might be nice for finding people in your realm to murder. Zunzon says, any plans for spring changes? What do you think about cutting, striking for tree cloning? I assume you want the quality, then. You want to be able to propagate trees of high quality. Yeah, what do I think about that? I don't know. I don't know that I have a fixed opinion on that. Like, wouldn't it make it just trivially easy to mass produce high quality wood? Like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about it? What if taken thing walls will rather give exp instead of consume? It will create more motivation for expansion. That's actually true. I hadn't thought about that, but that's actually true. That's a no-brainer. That's how it should work, right? You should get authority from controlling thing walls, not the other way around, right? Yeah. Damn. I see the light on that one now. Alright. That makes a lot more sense, right? Right. Please, give me a right. That makes a lot more sense. Chat, step in here. Confirm me in this. It makes more sense that you get authority from controlling area rather than controlling area costing authority. Because that's a way we could give you authority, right? Right. A lot more sense. Damn right. Yes. Yes, this is the fire energy we need from the dev stream chat. Yes, finally. This is good. We're making progress. Snail says you guys are wrong. Okay. Okay, be that way. Why is it? Why are they wrong? Please enlighten us, Snail. We should have Snail on the Realm stream sometime, or the Realm stream. Gosh darn it, my brain is fried to mush. We should invite him on, and he can defend his nefarious ways, explain himself to the good people of the hearth. I think there should be a because the superior system is no realms. F you. Disagree. Hard disagree. You're wrong. That's not right. No. How is that? Like, that's dumb, sir. Like, that is dumb. Competing for control of territory is a good basic idea. You can't just, oh, you should remove that because it's not fun. No. I should remove you because you're no fun. I don't hollow. I don't agree with you. You're wrong. You're just wrong. Thingwall PvP is actual trash though. Okay, that's fine. I buy that, but explain to me why. Just don't just say shit like that. Don't just come out swinging like Thingwall's PvP is trash. Like, how can we make it better? Constructive. Be constructive. There have been 3 realm fights this world. There is no competing for territory, just less people capable of playing competitively because of realm buffs. Okay, so now you're more specific. Now you're talking about realm buffs. Realm buffs are not a necessary feature of the realm system. They are an accidental feature of the realm system. Okay, if you want to push for removing realm buffs entirely, fine. Let's talk about that. But like, be specific then. Be specific then. Please remove realm buffs. Okay, there we go. The current system makes it most worth for people to just all be in one realm. I agree with that. That is a good criticism of the realm system. Definitely. So how do we change that then? Because I want there to be some upside from having a realm. It doesn't have to be big, but I want there to be some tangible upside from having a realm. And the reason we leaned on realm buffs, I suppose, is that it would improve the quality of life for the people living under the realm. But I agree that there are some issues there with like there being strong incentives to like all gang up in one realm, etc., etc. What if the Thingwalls themselves gave realm? Yeah, what if? Does it really? It doesn't solve the problem of there being a huge incentive to just all gang up in one realm. So we should perhaps look at that. 30-second advertisement. I wanted to read that. Hold up, chat. Nobody say anything. I gotta read that. 30-second advertisement says, Thingwalls taking 2 hours is way too long for a fight that probably won't happen. If you're not on standby, the challenge flag gets bashed before you can even teleport directly there. Okay, so what you're saying then is that the flag should be more difficult to bash, and it should take a shorter period of time. Okay, we can work with that. Would that significantly improve the system? You think? If those are the criticisms that you are presenting to me, sir, then I would want you to answer the question: would that significantly improve the system, changing those things, or is the problem actually located somewhere else entirely? What did we say now? Bashing flags is too easy. Realm flags. What flags are we talking about? We're talking about realm flags, yeah? And which takes too long. Realm fights take too long. What would be a ballpark? Like, how long could it take? Like, how long should a challenge have to be active, etc.? Like, what are we talking about? Realms could just add a buttload of aesthetic stuff for LARPing and have no actual measurable benefit. This is true. Make it possible to put the RAM in stasis during which new siege buildings cannot hit it and cannot be broken by hand. I don't know about that. Yeah, incentives to expand and incentives for players under realm to want to invest and defend their realms. Realm buffs should just be organization and LARP oriented. Also, nobody wants to fight nearby water. Could be reserved for those who are named certain titles within the realm. Fighting near water is really bad. Is fighting near water really bad because of the snack yes, or what's the... And point defense PvP is bad in Haven. Okay, well, that may be Snuggle, but like running around defense isn't great either. So, and I think point defense at least forces a fight, and I think that's... I'm gonna... Point defense is a hill I am willing to die on. Realm buffs should just change visual appearance of characters inside. LARP structures. Buffs are the only motivation to create them. Must be fixed. Fighting near water is basically like having mobile safe pallets. It sucks. Fighting near water makes snackcast Knorrs mandatory. If your snackcasts get bashed, you're basically screwed while the enemy has an easy escape, okay? It could force somebody to wear a banner in an area for 30 minutes, and if they don't get downed, they win. Can't get on Knorrs, boats, claims, horses. Okay, that's actually that was an interesting suggestion. I'll copy that and paste it in my little document here. Some of the spawning of thing walls is really bad too because there's a thing wall on an island with like 8 land tiles. Yeah, the RNG is going to give and take away. We might look at that, but that's a world reset thing. Trollic says Snail's suggestion actually sounds cool in my opinion. Yeah, I didn't hate that one either, so props for that one. Don't war flags need line of sight to the thing wall. You can clip rams over them or build strong boxes around them. Would be a good idea for the person holding the flag not to be able to get to jump on boat. I mean, you know. I'm not super versed in PvP, but wouldn't the removal of realm buffs get rid of all incentives to make a realm, as well as any reason to challenge one? I mean, there needs to be some level of incentivization to forming realms. I mean, there are some LARPing things, like you get your flag on the thing wall, and, you know, I don't think that stuff like that doesn't matter at all. So I think, you know, I think that matters to some extent. So I don't think the realm buff system necessarily is like, it's not something that I'm wed to. We don't have to have the realm buff system. I don't want to remove content though. Kidding, I could consider removing content, but you scared? You scared? 30-second advertisement says realm upkeep should be based on the buffs you have active, not the statues menhirs, because people can grief your realm by building 1,000,000 statues menhirs late game, and you have to siege to not get your auth destroyed. That's a good point. I'll copy that one as well. 30-second advertisement. Thank you. Some good feedback here, chat. This is good. This is a good little powwow we're having with me taking the insights of the masses and distilling them into a new party line. This is some actual travestation of a quote by Chairman Mao. Kind of he said something to the effect that like the role of the revolutionary is to take the insights of the masses and distill them into party politics. So. Everyone would love to contribute to Realm to have cat pet. Right, so you tame a lynx and switch Realm content to village content. Realm costs are the thing that make major groups join together. It might be interesting to make these Realm structures into village structures and only benefit a purposely limited amount of people. So 4 smaller groups, which would increase PvP and lengthen play time for PvPers. Yeah, alright, that could save us the content as well, so I'll consider that. How do we feel about that one, chat? I'll save it at least. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'll consider it. I shall consider this. He just wrote force bigger villagers. Yeah, he did write that. Like, I see your point. Like, that would be an incentive. Depends though on how hard or difficult the buffs are to get, and it's also like pushing it to villages is kind of dumb too, because like if you want to have all the buffs, then you suddenly have to have 5 different villages, and so that's not gonna fly, I don't think. Yeah, it kind of sucks for hermits too. Yeah, so realms are better for hermits for show dogs. So yeah, those are good points. We should not be moving the buffs to village level. That's not a good idea. Alright, let's move on to a new icon. Let's see. We've kind of done some sort of something with this one. Let me actually do this before we do anything of the sort. Oops, not going to press F12. Oof, almost did. Almost closed the stream right on down. Because what we need now is that we export these bad boys. So now we save these as PNGs. Usually we press F12, but while we're streaming, we ain't going to press F12 because that's going to shut the stream down. We don't want to do that. This is where we want to be. Toggles, yes. I'm going to head over to another little program here, and we're going to delete that one, and we're going to delete the toggles one. Where do you have that one? There. Yep, gone. Away with thee. And we move over the new files, and we move to another computer entirely. Do some hacks and magic over here. Do like that. Let's see if we can show these babies in game what they actually turned out to look like. I'm just gonna do this. Okay. That one worked, but that one did not. Did we not transfer it, or what happened there? What happened there? Let's see now. What? What the fracky fruit? Okay, that one didn't work. I'll have to look at that later. So, alright, we have 15 minutes to go, crew. So we can at least look a little bit. The toggle one turned out nicely. I must have derped something up here. I'll look at that later. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't get it. Let's see, questions. Have you thought about makes the world reset shorter because it seems like the player base falls off the longer it goes? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, doing world resets just to do world resets is kind of a one-trick pony, and I think that gets old quickly, so I don't want to do that. I don't think that's, it also, like, I mean, I don't know, I want the world resets to be, like, I want there to be a good reason for us deleting all your shit. Like, I want there to be, some major change that we actually want to affect in the game, so I'm not, like, too keen on that. That or just eventually work to retain more players longer with content. I mean, that would be the ideal goal. Like, that's what we're working toward. So can we expand the world border? We can. I mean, that's technically very possible. So fix the mandrake. It simply cannot be found in this world. Really? I think I've found mandrakes, but that was earlier in the game. So let's see what else. Yeah, true. Retaining would be best, but for now it just seems like it gets lonely real quick. Yeah, I mean that's true. Have you guys considered buffing rawhide extensively? Det var ett jävla tjat. Rawhide. Aldrig är det då någonting annat än rawhide. Det ska då alltid vara rawhide. Ja, vi kan kolla på det, vännen. We can have a look at that, my friend. Let's see. Thanks for the cool stream. But I have one last question about in-game mechanics. Have you considered getting vaccinated in real life? It's not an in-game mechanic question, sir. I also love how the new it's perfectly kosher to just randomly ask strangers about their medical status. More metals. Lead was great. New stones are great. I'm a mining hermit and I want more. Yeah, I mean, I think we have all the classical metals known to antiquity in the game now, so I don't know what you would suggest in terms of new ones. Athanar says, what's your blood type? Dude, I don't even remember. I used to know that. Is it B something plus? I don't. I have no idea. I know we on some biology class in 9th grade or something, we did a test to find our blood type. So I know, I have known it, but I do not know it right now. Nickel. I don't know when nickel was discovered. Cyborg085 says, thanks for developing this game. It's good, and you guys are doing great work. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for playing. Thank you for being a part of the stream. Not to wind it down entirely because we have 10 minutes to go, but I thought this was fun and constructive. We got into it after a while at least. And we haven't done one in a long time, so it feels good to be back on the horse. I actually investigated. So these are the requirements that you need to hit in order to become a Twitch affiliate, which I have no idea what that really implies, but I think it's somehow good. So I'm thinking, and I mean I've done most of these. I have more than 50 followers, and concurrent viewers is definitely more than 3. It's these things that we would need to do. So I've considered doing that. But that would mean a lot of 7 unique broadcast days, 500 total minutes. I mean, 500 minutes total is not that difficult, but 7 unique broadcasts in a month. That's a pretty tall order. Ideally every week. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be a tall order, but I've considered it. So I don't know. Robertson just says, just need to stream more often. Yeah, just get on and stream icon drawing. Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it, sir. As you can see, I'm not the most proficient artist in the world, but I bumble along. Lead poisoning wound, sign me up. Yeah, we should have done that one a long time ago. We talked a lot about it when implementing lead. I think it's a beautiful fire, says Trollix. Thank you, Trollix. I'm glad you support me. My dog Trollix. You can simply apply for a partnership as a developer. An interesting opportunity presents itself. I can apply for a partnership as a developer. Make it like pricking your finger on a wheel. Anything that touches lead gives poison. Yeah, it's fun. My entire base has memories of pain on my kind of real-ish character that I'm playing. Reduce ancient root spawns in half. They are simply too OP and get rid of wound content. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, yep. Rootoots. I know I bitched about this last stream as well, but where is the little friggin' thing? So I had a keyboard. It was a good. Oh fuck! Stop. Never mind. I had a Microsoft. It was a good board. You know how hard it is to find. I just want my board back. It's from Apocalypse Now. I had a good keyboard. It's one of these. I can just show you this one. I had a good old trusty Microsoft keyboard. This one is good. There's nothing fancy about it. No LEDs, no dumb anything. It's just a keyboard. Minimalistic dumb keyboard. Now I'm using this. It has LEDs and it's some dumb. I know I bitched about this last stream as well, but I'm gonna bitch about it again. It's some dumb gamer keyboard, and it's like super sensitive. So if you try to rest your finger gently on a key, it's gonna register that as a key press. So you can't like you type double symbols all the time. Pepper is for poisoning Dackhand. Yeah. A pooper bot. Yeah. Boom. We got it done. Any hopes on a mobile client for phones, tablets? I mean, most phones and or tablets can run Java, so in theory, the game can already run. I would suspect on phones and or mobiles. But the problem there is the input solution. Like, how do we handle game input? Because the game is kind of dependent on mouse and keyboard control. Other than that, I'm not at all against it. I wouldn't mind having a client, but developing the UI for it, I don't know how the UI solution for a phone and or tablet implementation would look like. So I think it's merely a matter of that. Otherwise, I think it would be easy. I think we could definitely use more wounds in the game, says Sephiroth. Please make lead poisoning spread. Here's a man to my tastes. I super support Sephiroth's line of thinking here. More wounds. Robertson says, what do you want for Christmas? An old book? The tip I usually give people is buy me anything older than 100 years and I'll probably be happy. Like, that doesn't mean like, okay, I'm going to go buy you a really old turd. I'm going to wrap it up in real nice paper and give you a really old turd. That's not what I mean. Like a real object, a real thing. Like, to give me like an old book or something. That would be the thing. Cardboard Thief says, are you planning on adding more brick structures? These new variable brick stuff looks great, and I like the aesthetic of pit clay bricks. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Any particular ones you'd have in mind? Like, houses would be the obvious one. But the thing is, like, since we want, it's a common thing that I say all the time as well, but might as well repeat it now. I don't want to do too many, like, prefab fixed type building houses when I know that we want to be doing freeform building down the road. I don't want to invest too much in the housing system. So, brick fire pit, that we could do. Brick fire, I'll consider that. Brick fire pit. But, I mean, that's mostly a LARP, I suppose. But Harbinger Bjorn says, as far as object control, object development is concerned, what are your thoughts on the coronavirus? I would freely share my thoughts on the Coronca Bologna virus, but I get the impression that people don't, that it's politically sensitive to do so. So I shall abstain in this forum. You can hit me up somewhere else. Cardboard Thief says houses is the obvious choice, but alternative wells, fire pit, and storage containers. Storage containers, perhaps. Brick. It's like a very unrealistic. No one builds storage containers out of bricks, right? Right. Consider it. Brick storage container. Brick shed. What about brick smokers? New wall type after brick wall, maybe metal wall. I don't know. Brick shed, yeah. Is for purist thing. Brick shed. Brick shed. Brick shed could perhaps be something. Brick log stockpile. I think with the comment brick log stockpile, the stream has mostly outlived its usefulness. We have 3 minutes to go, so if you have any last questions of a real nature, then feel free to shoot. When object control objects drops, do you think you guys will look into wall battlements you can fire off of? Yeah, definitely. It's one of the things that we want to do. Sauna is fun. Sauna is a good one, but it's kind of a building, but I could maybe make an exception for sauna. So I'll consider sauna. Brand indication in cattle roster, please. I'm not sure about that. Snuggle Sales says, thanks for the stream. I personally prefer this monthly to 4 weeks of bird patches to prove you're alive. And thank you for watching and being here and commenting and having your opinions, sharing your opinions. Elliot says, long live Jorb and Loftar, long live Haven and Hearth. Yes. Orculus says, all the new icons are great. Thank you for working on them and showing us closely. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for your great work. Thank you. Thank you all guys for being here and for discussing with me. I genuinely, I think these power hours are usually great. Because I make zero pretense of like knowing how the game works in every little detail and whatever. So I'm very open to opinions and feedback and whatnot. So it helps us, and I think I jotted down a couple of good points here. So we'll definitely do this again. And sorry for missing 2 months. I've been in the middle of a move, so we've moved recently, and that was a big project. So it took some time to get sorted and settled, but now we are, and fall is getting into gear. So time for some new departures and to bring the real heat and fire and energy to the development and to the stream. So Wandering Poet says, great stream, always love to hang out with you. Yeah, the same, man. This is a lot of fun. Robertson says, finally moved in with Loftar. No sir, none of that. Ethan Honor says, thanks Jorb, have a good one. Alright, take care guys, good night. Thank you all for being with me tonight, and I enjoy this. We'll do it again next month, etc, etc. I'm always on the forums, hit me up there. I'm on the Discord, hit me up there. We should maybe make an official Discord server, if I can be arsed to do it. Mof Moklok says, love you, kisses, bye. Take care guys, Jesus loves you. I will catch you in the September stream. So live long and prosper. This was a lot of fun. Take care, I'm out. Sleep tight when you do.